This is a review that I feel like I'm taking a little bit of a risk in making. Why? What people call poser metal. I'm afraid of people not subscribing to me, or unsubscribing, or just me getting criticized because of poser metal. Metalcore is just another kind of metal, and I find it freaking stupid that everyone's like, oh, if it has core, it's not metal. That's retarded, quite frankly. Um, it originated from metal, it is influenced by metal, it is tied with metal, so pretty sure it's metal. Anyway, and quite frankly, I'm not a dang poser. You call Elevite poser? You frickin' call these bands right here poser? Do you? Do you frickin' call those bands poser? I don't think you call them poser. Or at least the intelligent parts of you. Intelligent part. Well, I don't even know. I'm sorry. So Miss May I, at Heart, which is the freaking 2012 album that they put out. I went to see Miss May I last month on the AP tour with The Ghost Inside, Like Moss to Flames, The Amity Affliction, and Glass Cloud. Oh yeah, and I am planning to do a review of Give What You Get, or Get What You Get, I don't even remember which, by Ghost Inside, and The Royal Thousand by Glass Cloud. But, anyways. Something that I like about Miss May I is that they like to be an old school metal band, or they like to refrain from using keyboards or effects. Now, in some cases, using keyboards and effects and stuff like that can sound really cool. In the example of Glass Cloud, in the example of Attack Attack, they did some very interesting work there, and then usage of keyboard in symphonic metal, and then some of the keyboard that Winds of Plague used, I thought was very interesting usage. But they kind of are a very unique metalcore band, and a lot of core bands, I mean, are extremely mediocre. Doesn't make them not metal, but there are a lot of mediocre metalcore core bands that just go chugga 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 chugga, breakdown, dun 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 dun. Immure Slave to the Game was freaking terrible. And it is a prime example of that crap, so get that crap out of here. Get it out. Go. I don't know. Something I like about Miss May I is that they come up with riffs that are not based around chugging, and when they can do breakdowns, they actually make the breakdowns entertaining. Unlike most bands that use breakdowns. Most bands that use breakdowns that actually make them entertaining are core bands, or not core bands, death metal bands, such as Cattle Decapitation, Dying Fetus, etc., etc. But I think they do a good job at breakdowns. And how this album differed from Monument. According to Wikipedia, this album is getting mostly positive feedback because of the note of the mature shift in the sound of the band. Now, what actually changed between Monument and this album at Heart? Did a mature shift in the sound happen? Yes, I believe it did. Honestly, there's less repetitivity than there is in Monument. There's a little bit more uniqueness in this album. They can still do a good job at breakdowns, but I feel like they do a little bit of a better job in this album than they did in Monument, which I think Monument is a fantastic album as well as this one is. But carrying mediocrity, in some aspects, all music is mediocre. I mean, but the only time when anyone actually takes this mediocrity into consideration is when it's really noticeable. When you can actually think about it and be like, oh, take this piece here, take this piece here. These are bad effort, mediocre, needs to be changed, da 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 da. And despite the fact this album was a fantastic album, they still carried some mediocrity in. They reduced the mediocrity for sure from Monument. Um, like, it wasn't that big on Monument anyways, but they're kind of minimalizing it here. Um, and reducing the repetitive riffing that they had on Monument. And getting rid of it in this album. But there are still parts on, like, Day by Day where he just kind of does a simple riff. For the most part, this album is a very, very unique metalcore album compared to a lot of metalcore. And, you know, there are some metalcore bands that I, you know, give a lot of credit for being unique. Or not a lot, but there are a few core bands that I like for being unique. And specifically amongst metalcore, Trivium, As I Lay Dying, those are probably the two biggest bands that I would say I give credit for being unique in the metalcore genre, making breakdowns entertaining and not overusing stupid chugging. I don't think I've even heard Trivium as a single breakdown. They're a metalcore band. They are very good, and unfortunately I missed a show from them earlier this year that was in my town. But, anyway, so yeah, what to say about this album? Like, you know, just kind of examine closer at the music. There's still some repetitivity, honestly. There's, a little bit of mediocrity, but they reduce that a lot on this album, and they aren't chugging at all, which is good. There's something else that I like about them, that I feel like they did something very good in the last album, and as good, if not even better, on this album, is that they talk about real life situations, and put meaning into their lyrics. I mean, you know, it's cool, you know, sometimes like Elevite, will talk about historical battles and stuff like that, and then a lot of the folk metal bands will talk about like fantasy and like Ensiferum's One More Magic Potion talks about like a army gets lost in the forest and they find like a witch that gives them a satisfaction or healing potion, something like that. But you know, you kind of get the point. And what I notice is that especially amongst the core community, the lyrics are very, very meaningless and not interesting at all. And Miss May I, they do a very good job at putting life situations into lyrics and kind of encouraging people. I think that a lot of times the whole scene kid community is kind of just a big, like, a bunch of people who have been bullied and stuff like that, finding a kind of music that, you know, was made by people who can relate to them, and people, you know, who understand them, so that's why they often gravitate to this kind of lyrics, and this kind of music that they have. But yeah, you know, now, and one more thing about the music, the drummer, very good. He can play fast, I'm not even kidding, like, all over the place, keeping rhythm perfectly. He reminds me a lot of Dying Fetus's drummer. Not so much Niall's drummer, because I haven't heard a single drummer that's top Niall's drummer, who can play faster than Niall's drummer. Niall's drummer is excellent. MLG. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much my review. I would say that this album is a really good album. I wouldn't jump right to extremely fantastic, but I still like this album a lot, and I think it's a new direction for Miss May I because of their more matured sound based on their kind of newer songwriting. But anyways, I'll see you guys later for Keep It Metal.